If you're an author or plan to be one, get excited because this podcast is for you. Book Marketing Mentors is the only podcast dedicated to helping you successfully market and sell your book. If you're ready for empowering conversations with successful marketing mavens, then grab a coffee or tea and listen in to your host, international best-selling author Susan Friedmann.
Welcome to Book Marketing Mentors, the weekly podcast where you learn proven strategies, tools, ideas, and tips from the masters. Every week, I introduce you to a marketing master who will share their expertise to help you market and sell more books. Today, I'm your special guest, Susan Friedmann, the host of Book Marketing Mentors. Over the last few weeks, I've been discussing stumbling blocks or excuses authors make for not marketing their books. So far, I've covered 3 stumbling blocks. That is, the lack of money, the lack of time, and the lack of marketing and sales expertise. Today, I'm going to talk about the 4th and final stumbling block, and that's the lack of confidence. Now, confidence is a word that gets bandied around, but do we actually know what it means? Confidence means feeling sure of yourself and your abilities. Not in an arrogant way, but rather in a realistic and secure way. Confidence isn't about feeling superior to others. It's a quiet inner knowledge that you're capable and feel secure about who you actually are. And of course, this is essential for an author who wants to be seen and recognized as an expert authority. So why is confidence important? Greater confidence allows you to experience freedom from self-doubt and negative thoughts about yourself. And greater confidence helps make you more willing to take smart risks and better able to move outside of your comfort zone. Of course, this is more easily said than done for many authors. Confidence isn't actually a mythical trait that only some people are born with and others not. But actually, it's a learned skill, which means that if you want to learn a skill, you need to practice. But before we can practice the skill, we need to dig a bit further into why you might not be feeling self-confident. Many of you wrote your book as a way to exhibit yourself as a subject matter expert. However, as much as you want to share your message with the world, there's something holding you back. And that something is often as a result of one or more fears. Let's be honest, we all have fears of one sort or another, be it a fear of failure, success, being judged or looking stupid, a fear of rejection or inadequacy, a fear of the unknown or not being good enough. Fears come in all shapes and sizes and masquerade themselves in ways we often don't realize. In the case of marketing and promoting your book, perhaps it's a fear of rejection or being judged or criticized. I mean, after all your hard work, you might feel inadequate to actually parade yourself and your masterpiece to your market. I'll share a secret with you. It's a fear of judgment and criticism that's plagued me many times during the writing process. I've spent countless hours wordsmithing and procrastinating before publishing a book or an article. It's not anything that I'm proud of, let me admit that. Yet, when I notice this gremlin rearing its ugly head, I've learned to pay attention and examine why it's happening and what I need to do to get over this stumbling block that I've created for myself. Perhaps some of you might relate to this. However, this isn't about psychology, yet the way you approach every aspect of writing and marketing your books speaks volumes about you, your mindset, attitudes, and fears. If you're holding yourself back with excuses, I invite you to look deeper to uncover what really is standing in the way of your progress. If it's a lack of marketing knowledge, then you and I can have some coaching sessions together. Alternatively, there are numerous books available on the subject and articles galore. There's no lack of information when you want to go in search of it. Your biggest challenge is likely to be getting overwhelmed because of too much information, or even get stuck into buying some shiny object that will magically take care of your problems. However, I digress. Before you go in search of the miracle cure to your marketing conundrum, I recommend you be totally honest with yourself and ask if there's one or multiple fears that stand in the way of your success. I know that when I started in the speaking business, I developed a fear of success. Why? Because I witnessed many of my colleagues throw themselves into their work and do hundreds of speaking engagements around the country, around the globe. And that helped create very unhappy family situations, which in many cases, unfortunately, ended in divorce. Because family is paramount in my life, I created a story in my head that if I immersed myself in my business, this would happen to me. So I consciously held myself back, doing just about enough to make a decent living. In other words, I became fearful of my own success. Knowing this about myself, I now question, what am I afraid of if I found myself making excuses or using delay tactics to finish a project? How about you? What's holding you back? What are your underlying fears? The better you know and understand yourself, the easier it is to find ways to face and fight those fears. Your goal is to combat them, not allowing them to get the better of you. Chances are that no matter who you are or where you live in the world, at some point in your life, you've had a few multiple unwelcome visits for a voice inside your head, better known as that inner critic. We'll talk a little bit about taking charge of this unruly inner critic, but next time that we meet, I'm going to go into more depth with this. This inner critic, in fact, is a voice that presents itself in the form of a critical and judgmental thought process. And these thoughts sneak up on you when you least expect them. They've got this nasty habit of holding you hostage to the point of obsessive or even paralyzing thoughts. This voice can spew out humiliation, criticisms, and reminders that you're not good enough or you're a failure, you weigh too much. It judges and disapproves of the way you live your life. Does this sound familiar? Recently, I realized that the chatter in my mind had no power without my consent. It's simply a collection of my stories, beliefs, comments, maybe explanations, judgment, fears, worries, fantasies, or dreams. They are based completely on my experience of the world and the people who've influenced me the most. This critical voice sometimes guides me into savvy decision-making, but often it rears its ugly head and comes up with those nasty, irrational beliefs that perhaps make fun of the choices that I make. Then, without realizing it, I give it permission to stand in the way of me doing something that deep down I'd love to do. For example, last Thursday night, I wanted to go and see a movie. And then, just as I'm making plans, my inner critic kicked into action, telling me that I have far too much work to do and it would be totally irresponsible of me to go out and enjoy myself. I should rather stay home and knuckle down and take care of what needed to get done. Because I've learned how to handle my gremlin, who, by the way, is called Esmeralda, I thanked her for her concern, and I'd take care of everything that I needed to get done the following day. How much time do you spend listening to your inner voice in your head that perhaps shares those spiteful thoughts to annoy or even anger you? These thoughts or disempowering beliefs can play havoc with your life, and they're often our worst enemy. If your inner voice, which, by the way, might sound a lot like a family member or former teacher, is playing mind games with you, I challenge you to become more mindful of your old beliefs, those robotic behaviors, habits, or patterns that no longer serve you and are standing in the way of your success. To help you do this, let's look at 5 ways you can build self-confidence with your mind. Firstly, you want to take control of your self-talk. Yes, it's easy to say and hard to do, but you can consciously control some or most of that inner self-talk. Your mind is always listening to your self-talk and programming itself like a computer from this inner talk. But to feel more confidence, make sure your inner voice creates more rather than less self-confidence. For example, when your inner voice starts giving you so-called helpful advice, just gently say, thanks for your help, but I've got this. What you're doing is actually minimizing the control. You're actually not going to get rid of that inner voice completely, nor do you want to, as its role is actually to keep you safe. You just need to let it know who's in control. Second, use visualization. Earlier, I mentioned that confidence was a skill you need to practice. If you think of it as a muscle, what you're looking to do is strengthen it so that obviously it can get stronger. According to research, you can consciously strengthen confidence when you use and practice visualization routines. Professionals such as athletes, musicians, speakers use visualization routines to help them be their best. In their mind, they create a clear image of what a perfect performance or win looks like. Before a speaking engagement, I like to visualize how I want my presentation to go. I visualize the audience loving the information I share with them. I see these happy faces, a standing ovation, and of course, hundreds of product sales. This all helps to strengthen my confidence, especially when I might have some pre-performance anxiety jitters. Number 3, prepare obsessively. Visualization is one side of the self-confidence coin. The other side is research, study, and preparation. I highly recommend that you watch performances of the great speakers and presenters such as Les Brown or Mel Robbins, and then take to heart a quote that's attributed to Roman philosopher Seneca. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Number 4, resolve your perfectionism. Earlier, I also mentioned that I used to wordsmith and procrastinate over my work. This, in fact, is a form of perfectionism. Perfectionism certainly helps you become good or great at what you do, however, not to the detriment of self-sabotage. True perfectionism is like chasing a Ferrari at full speed and you're on a tricycle. It's impossible to catch up with it. It's easy to feel like a failure if you feel that you can never achieve perfectionism. Remember that getting it done well is far better than never getting it done at all. And finally, number 5 is minimize your inner critic. Learn to recognize your internal negative thoughts and feelings. Then you want to learn to stop those negative, destructive thoughts so that you can exercise and strengthen that self-confidence muscle. Minimizing your inner critic is such a deep and important subject. I've actually decided to cover it in far more detail in my next episode. Remember, you can still get a complimentary 20-minute session with me if you want to discuss some powerful ideas that could work for you and marketing your book and yourself. To schedule time with me, go to brainstormwithsusan.com. That's brainstormwithsusan.com. So until next time, here's wishing you much book and author marketing success.
The time is now to take action and finally build your book-selling empire. And the great news is that Susan is here to help you. Visit bookmarketingmentors.com and sign up for a free 15-minute book marketing strategy session with Susan. She'll help you discover your first steps to marketing and selling your book. Only those who take action are rewarded, so visit bookmarketingmentors.com, and we'll see you again next week.